My name is Bobby Bachel. I'm from the training team, and I'm working alongside my colleague from the business intelligence team, Faisal. Would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, all. I hope you have a productive session this afternoon.
Awesome. And we both hope that you all will learn a lot about the Business Intelligence Gateway, which is a cloud analytics-based tool in which you'll be able to access your reports. Inside this tool, just know that we call reports stories. So if you hear us using the word story moving forward, just know that that means reports. So try not to be too confused with the terminology, but we'll be using stories moving forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin sharing my screen. And the way to access the Business Intelligence Gateway tool, there are two ways. One is through going through wbg.wow.cornell.edu. You can do this through any browser, which is Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever you prefer. And then once you go through there, you'll just log in with your credentials, and essentially you'll be taken here. And I'm already logged in, but before this page, you'll be able to access your seaweed and password, and then you will click on login. But I did that over here. And after I'm inside the WBG gateway, I'll go to the search bar and then type in the Business Intelligence Gateway. And you can see that it's already brought up through the search bar. I only typed in business, but you can type in the full name if you want, Business Intelligence Gateway. I'll go ahead and click it, and I'll be taken straight to the landing page of the Business Intelligence Gateway. And that's where I'll reach it. That's the first way to access through WBG. The alternative way to access, the second part, is through bi.wow.cornell.edu. Do this through any web browser again, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, whatever it may be. And it's just bi.wow.cornell.edu. And then you'll log in with your credentials as soon as you're taken to that page. And you'll end up at the same landing page for the Business Intelligence Gateway, which is right here. So starting from the landing page, you can see that this is where we begin, and we can edit this home page if we want by using the drop down arrow right here, and then click on Edit Home Screen. And we can change this and customize it to the way that we want it to be. Be sure to personalize it so that way you get a great ease of access and that you're comfortable with the way that you're displaying. Everything's displayed to you on the home screen. We can change it to have a welcome message on or off. We can change it to have, calendar highlights or even the recent stories, which are reports, on or off. And any changes that you make to the home screen, if you want to keep them, be sure to click on OK. If not, go ahead and click cancel. And over here, what I have is that we have a welcome message on this home screen. We can ask any question about the tool right here. Just type it in. And then we can even see our recent stories where we can go straight into sponsored program, employee plan funding, and so much more. And we can even jump straight into creating our first story or even learning more in the help center for the tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the three tabs on the top left, which are catalog, favorites, and shared with me. So in catalog, this is where we'll be able to see all of our stories that are available to you. This is based on access. So if you see more or less, depending on what your account looks like and based on the access, you may see more or less that I am displaying here. And if you wanted to make any of these stories a favorite, you'll just simply click on the star icon right here, and you can see that it's filled in and it is now a favorite. A favorite is basically when you would want to use a story very often. So say I use federal expenditure summary very often, I would like to make it my favorite, and I can access it easy since I made it a favorite by going to my favorites. And I can find it right here, right off the bat. Now say I already finished everything I needed for federal expenditure summary, and I don't want it to be a favorite anymore. I'll just go ahead and do the same thing. Unclick it from the star icon. You can see it being removed from my favorites in real time. The other tab is shared with me, that you will see all of your stories that are shared with you by your colleagues. And this is where you can go and you can also do the same exact thing, make any of them a favorite, open them right off the bat, whatever you choose to do. This is the category, this is the tab in which you'll be able to see all of your stories that are shared with you. Now inside catalog favorites and shared with me, there are 3, or I should say 4 features that are on the top right that we can use. So say we are searching for a report, or I should say a story that you would like to see. Say I want to find anything with the word sponsored in it, because I'm looking for sponsored program combined statement. I'll just simply type in sponsored, and we can see that the tool instantly brings up everything that I need with the word sponsored right at the top. And I can just go ahead and get rid of that, and you'll see a change in real time right back to the way it was. The refresh button is right here in case you wanted to update and reload the data if you're not seeing something. And you can even sort any of your stories straight over here by clicking over here, and you can find most viewed, A to Z, Z to A. You can shift them and make them any way that you want it to be displayed to you. That way you're most comfortable with finding your stories that you want to work on right off the bat. In addition to that, we also have a filter button right here in which we can click on filter, and we can find that we can filter any of these stories straight off the bat from human resources, information technologies, whatever it is that you're working on. Say I'm just doing grants management, I'll click on the checkbox and we can find all grants management stories, or inventory management, whatever it may be for you that you are working on. Be sure to use filter, and you can find it through these categories right off the bat and make it so great that you can find it as an ease of access and jump straight into what you need to start working. So I'm going to go ahead back to today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to let Faisal jump straight into a report. That way we can begin seeing the more in-depth features for the Business Intelligence Gateway tool. If at any point that you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A feature and type them in, and we will be answering all questions. No question is off limit. So please feel free to do that. Faisal, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Bobby. Good afternoon, everybody again. So we're going to jump into a story real quick, and we're just going to take a look at some of the basic functionality. So I'm going to look at the sponsor program summary statement. We will go through potentially a couple other reports, so should be covering most areas. As you can see, this is the new prompt screen. You'll be familiar with it as it is traditionally the one used with web intelligence and analysis for Excel. All of the fields should be the same as the report that you were using in analysis for Excel or Webby. Some of these things are going to be pre-populated. I will talk about that in a second. But all of these fields are context aware, so that they will do autocompletes. So if I start typing a particular fund number, it'll look up the closest number to that and it will pull those things in. In this particular case, it's sponsor programs. So as you can see here, I have this default to 1 and 99999. This is a slight workaround. We are discussing with SAP a workaround for selecting all values within the actual queries themselves. We hope to have this resolved in the near future, but in the interim, this is the method we're using to search for all values associated with your account. So in this case, if I take a look at everything that this user has access to, you'll see it's a range of funds that aren't necessarily sequential, but as you can see, they'll have these 999 11 nines and this 1 available here. This will allow them to search for all of those members, but there will be an additional step once you run the report. Additionally, if you want to just paste in values for a particular report, you can just go to the clipboard here and it'll allow you to paste in any values as long as they're separated by commas or semicolons, and it will populate the entire reporting area. So I'm just going to run this report. You'll notice that you are unable to see much. Oh, well. So these are showing all filtered values. So if I remove that filter, as you can see, everything closed out. But if I add a filter for sponsored program, like it was showing a second ago, this will give you the entire view of all the reports. So I'm just going to remove the 1 here and 5 feet next. And I'm going to remove the 99 here. As those are not authorization relevant, they're going to cause the report to show up blank. But once you remove those two and hit OK, as you'll see, everything displays as is expected. So this is the current view of the sponsor program statement. If I wanted to modify it, I would have to go to Files, Save As. I already have a folder created called My Personal Files. You can easily create a new folder by clicking this little folder icon up here. And once you click it, it'll allow you to create a new folder, and you can set that up as your personal folder. So I created this file yesterday, and I have a version saved already. So I'm just gonna call this something else. And as you will see, this will allow me to start editing. So this edit option is over here. If I hadn't saved it, it would only show this view and controls option. So now that I have edit, I can just go to this menu here. As you can see, the top ribbon has populated with a bunch of features. We'll go through some of them shortly. But the main part of this is, if you're familiar with analysis for Excel reports or Webby reports, they both have pop-out menus from the side or static menus. In Designer, I can go to this little wrench and screwdriver here. And once I click into the report itself, the actual data view, this will populate with all the information from that particular data source. So now that you can see it, I have my available dimensions, which were previously called characteristics. They're now called dimensions. And I also have my key measures, which were previously called key figures. So those will be the two new nomenclatures going forward. Those would be the ones reflected from Analysis for Office and Web Intelligence, respectively. But if anybody's only been using the old Portal BI reports, they will know those as measures and key figures. Oops. Okay, so if I look at this report, and as far as my analysis is concerned, you can interact with anything that has these little caret symbols next to it. So if I wanted to say expand project till date budget, I can just click that, and it will expand everything out and show me each subsequent category. So let me just close that for now. Excuse me. So we'll go through the builder really quickly. So let's say I didn't want the years of validity in this report anymore. I can just hit this little X remove button, and it will remove it from the document. Let's say I wanted to add a new free characteristic. I can click this little button underneath that says add measure and dimension. Once I click it, all of my free characteristics will be available here. Let's say I want to, instead of seeing the year's validity, I want to see the valid to date. As you can see, the valid to date has been added, and it is available within the report. Additionally, maybe I wanted to see the sponsor program as two separate columns, one for the description and one for the ID. So I will go to these little three dots here. Maybe I just want to see ID for the moment. I can just change that to ID. That is changing the view. You'll be used to that as if this is the key versus key figure. So instead of changing it from key figure, key and text, this is just showing key now. So those terms have changed slightly also from description to for text and key to ID. As well, maybe I wanted to see the sponsor program name separately as well. I can go to this little properties menu here. I can hit properties, and all of the attributes that have been associated with these fields in the past will show up in this list. So previously, you would be able to select a particular attribute and select either the key or text version that you would want to show. Now in the BI gateway, it will allow you to select any number of these particular attributes. So you can stack as many as you'd want in there, long text, medium text. It isn't limited to a particular view. So it gives you a lot more control over that. So in this case, I'm going to add description. I'm going to check that, and I'm going to hit OK. As you can see, the description has been added here. Now let's say I wanted to look at this particular sponsor class hierarchy. So as you can see with these caret symbols here, this would show as a hierarchy. Maybe I don't want to see it as a hierarchy. Maybe I just want to see it as a flat file. If I go to the little three dots again next to sponsor class, press those. There's this hierarchy button here. I can press that. And currently it is set to the sponsor class report hierarchy. Maybe I want to change that to flat presentation, which would be without a hierarchy. I can hit set. That will reset everything back to a flat display. Nothing gets crunched up. Nothing gets shrunken. And again, if I wanted to just say display the ID, I can do that there as well. Additionally, as you can see, we do have subtotals available on sponsor class. If I had potentially a bigger report, maybe I'd turn it off on sponsor class. So I can just hit, again, those three dots. You can show totals. And then maybe I want to add it to grants. So by adding to grants, I go here and I show totals. So I'll show the total line here and it'll give you the overall amounts down there. Excuse me. Additionally, if I had zeros in the report that I didn't necessarily want to show, I can go to either the measures or the actual fields themselves and go to the zero suppression, and I can suppress all zeros. So in this case, these are negative values. The zeros will not be available there. I'm going to turn that off on all cells. Excuse me. Additionally, say I wanted to look at one particular sponsor class from this list. I can select this little manage filter button here. It will show me all the available members. And that's interesting. Show me all available members. I hit OK. Okay. Or I can right click, filter on that particular member, and it will filter it out. If I wanted to remove the filter, I can just go to sponsor class. Interesting. Apologies, some slight technical issues here. So I'm just going to remove sponsor class for the time being. We can take a look at that in a second. Additionally, if you wanted to, say, add a particular filter to these lists, you can add them from here as well. So if I look at this list, I can look at all the conditions available. These are things that are being filtered currently. I will hit OK. Let's look at this and that. Yeah, and everything rolls up to those particular funds. Also, from here, I can say add dimensions and measures. I can look at all the measures that I have available. So those would be the key figures themselves. And let's say I want to only look at one of them. Say I want to only look at the project till date expenses. I can just click that node, hit OK, and it will reload the report so that it only shows project till date expenses. As you can see, the page is reactive, so it will adjust on the fly. Okay. Go back to the designer. Here, additionally, you can, select, change some of these values to include some changes to the table itself. So right now I have only one line. So potentially if I add, let's say, these sponsor classes, as well as say the GL accounts associated with those sponsor classes, my list has gotten a little bit bigger. So let's see if I can't add some more. That's it for the time being. If I wanted to say freeze my top column, I can just right click here, go to table functions, and I can freeze up to this particular row. As you can see, that line has shown up there. And maybe I want to be able to see the sponsor program with the rest of my values over here. I will remove this filter. So I've got all these columns available. And if I scroll, this will stay in place, but maybe I want the column to stay in place as well. I can again right click table functions, freeze up to column, and it will lock that column in place there. Excuse me. Additionally, say along with those filters that we saw earlier, if I change this sponsor class back to a hierarchy, in this case, let's take the sponsor class report. Everything gets brought into these particular nodes. And maybe I want to show the particular, maybe I want to shrink this into the level 1 node. I can go to this drill option here. This will go into as far deep into the hierarchy as you need it to do. And you can select that. So here I'm going to select level 1. This, yes, I have GL account added, so it won't shrink. It will shrink down to level 1. Let's say I want to expand this hierarchy to level 2. It will show all additional values available there as well. So this is some of the basic functionality. Let's say I wanted to change the sponsor program, put it in front of Grant. I can easily just drag and drop everything up, and it changes position within the report. For the measures themselves, if I wanted to change the order, it all depends on how they are added to the report. Excuse me. Okay. Here you will notice that all of these fields become populated. So these are the fields that are currently within the report, and I will select commitments. So that's the overall amounts for the commitments themselves. Once I have commitments selected, let's say I want to look at the funds associated with those commitments. I can either select the individual fund to filter everything out with, or I can select the actual field itself, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the fields within that particular range that you you have selected. Additionally, I can select the particular commitment item that's associated with them. So if I want to look at both within the same chart, it'll break everything down that way. Maybe I don't want to see them in a bar chart. I can just go here. I can select table or charts. Let's say I want to turn this into a table. As you can see, all the values that were available from there have been turned into a table within this field. And because I only have commitment showing, it will only show the commitments. But if I select the rest of them, it will load everything else in there as well, including the hierarchies that you have shown within the report. Potentially, I only want to see the actual one of those, one fund specifically. I can click on that fund. It will filter everything out based on that fund and only show me all the values that are associated with that fund. So these are the things, such as item text, the particular posting dates, all that stuff is filtered only for the field that I have filtered out, in this case, this cash fund. So I'm going to unselect that, and it will show everything again. So this is the data field. This is something is much easier to play with it on your own than to show. So hopefully once everyone gets access, you will have access to this functionality, which you can then play with and hopefully use to your own advantages. I think that about covers it from my end for the time. There is one more feature that I'd like to show everyone. So once you guys have access to the system, We are giving everyone control over what they can and can't create. So if you're already comfortable with how to use the tool, navigation, you might want to go into create a story off one of the models that become available. So every report that you have access to, you have the corresponding data model associated with it. And with that data model, you can essentially create any report that you want for yourself. So if I go to WCM reporting, you can change this title to test demo. And if you click this in right here and select other model, your main folder structure will open up. It will look a bit different than mine, but this will open up. Let me select a model that would be sufficient. Let's go to funds. You all will thankfully not have the additional steps that we are taking right now. It will all be available within your files menu itself. So as you can see, the report is opening up. It's going to show you the initial prompt screen so that you can actually pick the values you want to start creating the report with. We recommend selecting this automatically open prompt on when story opens option. But from here, you can design the report as you see fit.